What's up, Yang Gang? My name is Levin,
I'm Kim.
and this is your Yang Gang Cold Approach Canvassing Class 101. We're actually here at UCSD. It's a new class being offered by the UCSD Yang Gang. This is our first time offering this course. We're actually here today because we had a freeway canvassing event planned, but later when you look out the window, it's actually pouring outside. So we called an audible and had been working on getting a class like this out there because I really want to catch every single Yang Gang up to what I'm able to do lately, which is get a lot of bang for my time in terms of cold approach canvassing. So in this class, what I'm going to talk about is, first of all, why do you want to learn this skill? And then I'll talk about the script and some of the dynamics that you want to be aware of as you're developing your script. And then thirdly, we're going to do a little bit of a role play, so we get to practice. And then we're going to go yang this whole building. And we're going to capture it all on video so that we have some examples to show you up our Yang Gang street team's abilities. Okay, so why do you want to learn this skill? So just let me tell you guys what I've been up to. So the other day I went to Ocean Beach Farmers Market, and it's something that happens in San Diego every Thursday. Tons of people there, and I only have 1 hour. And in that hour, I yanged about 250 people. So really quick, like 20-second conversations, passing out stickers. And I would say about 90 to 95% of the people I talked to either left like with curiosity about Andrew Yang or have already heard of Yang. And only about 5 to 10% are like, I already have my pick, I don't want to hear about this. So it's like overwhelmingly positive reception. And not to mention just the amount of impact, it's also a lot of fun. Like I'm at a point where I'm so used to doing this that I just, like when I'm going to the store, I'll talk to the people there. Out at a bar, hanging out with my friends, I'm yanging people because Yang is a very interesting person to talk about. And I'll go over some of the spicy like stuff that I build into what I say to kind of make it fun. And all of this, there's no exaggeration in anything I'm saying either. So it's not like I don't feel like I'm out there like doing sales or anything. Like my whole mentality is I know something very important for society and something very interesting too. So when I go into a conversation, I intrinsically feel like I'm bringing a lot of value to people. So that's something that I think every one of us Yang Gang know deep down, although maybe our outward like behaviors and kind of, it's still confronting to step out of our comfort zone to really speak our truth. But I think with enough practice and breaking it down into like little repeatable formulas will really help get everybody out there.
Sounds
So I think one thing I want to first talk about is getting into the content now. What scares people about cold approaching, and what is different about cold approaching than kind of other forms of canvassing? You mentioned that you're comfortable doing like door-to-door or canvassing like at a tabling event, right?
good. Yeah, so I think the traditional ways in which we talk to individuals, either in a short or long conversation, is door-to-door knocking, phone banking, text banking, having a table or having signs outside where people see the Yang signs and the merchandise, and they will sometimes come up and talk to us, or we'll hand out flyers or stickers as people are walking by. So I think that some people have more hesitation to just go like in a public place, maybe on their own, and just start talking to people randomly, because people tend to like to do their own thing, and
Right.
they're not as comfortable just starting up a conversation.
Right. So I think the key difference is when you're doing cold approach, you're actually you really are interrupting people in their daily flow of their own stuff. Whereas I think if you're door knocking, people sometimes expect deliveries, so you don't feel like you're intruding as much. And when they open the door, they're ready to talk to you and they're curious about what you're there for. In a scenario like this, you can see like students behind me they're doing their own thing. They're either studying, eating, or maybe watching videos. So you are interrupting them a little bit. So I think that's the key to why it feels more confronting. And even when you're approaching people, like maybe out at a farmer's market, they're also walking by, they're in their own flow. So you are interrupting. So that's one thing that we will have to get over. And there's a really simple technique to do that well, to acknowledge that you're doing that and make the other person feel at ease. So I'll talk about that when I get to the script. Let's see, anything else? Like, for example, if I were to say, like, if I were to ask you to, like, right now, get up and go and have conversations with every one of these people, like, what comes up?
I think one is that people don't like to go alone. So they like to have someone with them to help with talking and more comfortable. But if you have two people that go up to like one person randomly, that can be even more confronting.
For the person?
Yeah.
So you do have to, like, one thing is to be aware of what the other person is going to go through. I think two people is okay, and two people is great. Because when you have a buddy with you, this is like moral support.
Yeah.
And doing it alone requires kind of another level of confidence. I do think that's true.
Yeah.
So later on, I think when we go Yang people, you and I will buddy up. We'll take turns. And the point about two people approaching one person, and the other, maybe the one person would feel overwhelmed because there's too many people talking to them. So in that scenario, I will have one person lead the conversation, and the other person kind of just stands by.
Yeah.
So we can definitely address that too.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is personality. So fortunately, most of us in our local Yang gang have a very good outward, like, expressive and passionate personality. I think some people who are a little bit more shy would struggle to get started, but I think what you're saying, like, about the training that we're doing will help. And hopefully if we get more people to do it together, then it'll spread.
Yeah. And yeah, that definitely does make it easier if you naturally have an extroverted personality. And at the same time, it can definitely be trained. Like a lot of times, a lot of us have been phone banking and text banking. Even that can be confronting at first. Then after the 20th conversation, you're like in the flow of things and it's comfortable. And it's really the same way. I do believe I can break it down so that even the shyest person can do this comfortably after like 10 tries or so. Yeah.
And then the final thing I think is content. So a lot of us are very familiar with Yang's policies, and then the few may be a little bit familiar but not as comfortable answering questions. So it's good to have, if you go in pairs, one person who's really knowledgeable about the policies, and then the other person can hopefully kind of learn by observing and pick up more. And hopefully just in general, like watching more videos of Yang and getting more information, then people will get more knowledge about the policies.
Yep. Yeah, and the more you talk to people, the more you can get an idea of what are the likely objections they may have, and likely skepticisms that they may have. So yeah, like you'll definitely build up your understanding of how to talk about Yang's policies as you do this. Buddy systems are great too.
Yeah, I think every Yang gang person definitely needs to familiarize themselves with the frequently asked questions. And I think people do. But yeah, definitely that's another thing that people, I think once they get the knowledge about the policies, then they'll be like, okay, yeah, I can go out and talk to people more and answer questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the point is to whittle it down to simple things you could do, and then just to get out there and work through that like first couple of conversations that are confronting and awkward, and then you'll get to the flow of things.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
Yeah. So next, I want to talk about materials. I use just 2 stickers that we make, and the reason I use these is because you want to give people something of value that they think is cool. That it just makes it so much easier, because you already are interrupting people. But if you interrupt, like offering them something cool, then it puts them at ease. They're like, oh wow, that is cool. Like, makes the rest of the conversation so much easier. So what I do is I have these stickers.
Yeah, I think we found that the stickers and business cards do really well with people.
So I use these Yang face stickers, and these Humanity First stickers, and that's all I use basically. And like the flyers we give out are cool looking, you know. So like people actually want them. So that's one of the main things that makes it a lot easier. And
Another good graphic is the how to pay for it for UBI,
okay,
because that's one of the most common questions. So
yeah,
the graph is good. Only thing is I don't know if it's up to date because like the official campaign doesn't really publish. I think we get it from yangprints.com.
yeah.
So that's a little bit confusing, but
But
it does
I do
help.
want to say, do want to make a distinction between like a flyer, even if a flyer looks cool, versus a sticker that you give somebody. Because a sticker is valuable in and of itself. You know, this is a cute sticker, right?
Yeah.
And so is the Humanity First. So even if they don't like Yang, they might still like a Humanity First sticker. So I think that's the difference between, like a flyer would be informational,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's a little bit of a different dynamics. Hey, can I give you a flyer versus can I give you a cool sticker?
Oh yeah, the
Right?
flyer would be more for the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always open with the cool stickers and provide, more afterwards if relevant.
Yeah.
Third, I wanted to talk a little bit about different environments. So in cold approach canvassing, we could be at a farmer's market where people are walking by. Or we could be in a situation like this, which I really like because there's different groups of people sitting down. And the dynamic would be such that you can have conversations with one table and then this other table will be doing their own thing. So they won't be like watching you or overhearing you. And so you can have many small individual conversations. And the reason that's a little different is because if you start talking to a group and then people around are noticing, then it's kind of like you already have talked to all these other people. And then when you move over here, they've already heard some of what you're saying. And that creates an environment where like if you have one person that like really disagrees with you or like refuses you, it kind of like seeds the other people to be on guard too, because people like to cue off of each other, right? So I've noticed like when I'm in let's say a farmer's market scenario, if I get a no, because people sometimes just auto refuse somebody handing them something. If I get an auto refuse, chances are that the next person and the next 2 or 3 people will also auto refuse.
Yeah.
So when I do that, when I get that, I usually like step aside, take a 2-second break, and then start over again.
Okay.
But in this scenario, you don't really have to because you can isolate this group of people, talk to them, talk to them, talk to them.
Yeah.
So that's about environment. Okay, so the next part we'll get into the script. And there's a couple of elements you want to build into your script, and there's only a few. So the very first thing you want to do is get people's attention and establish a quick connection. So you want to say something like just a simple hello, like hello, or excuse me. Sometimes if it's a group of guys, I'll say, hey, what's up, guys? Make it like friendly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would say, hey, brother, if it's somebody that I could probably say that to, like if his vibe is that way. But hello and excuse me is a good general thing. And you want to say this just kind of in a normal voice. You want to make sure they hear you and look up and make a connection with you before you start talking. Because I think a lot of people get nervous on the approach and they're like, hey, can I give you a sticker? And then like before the person even knows what's going on, like they're being bombarded by words. So that's very important, just to say hello. And then the second is a time container. And this is specifically because you will be interrupting somebody. And this is to acknowledge that you're aware that their time is precious. So you would say something like, hey, real quick. Right? So that's kind of sets them at ease that you're not going to take up too much of their time. And I also sometimes go further if I see that they're very intently doing something, or if they're in a conversation with each other. I'm still going to go in, but I'm going to be more cordial about it. I'm going to say, hey, can I interrupt for just a quick second?
Yeah.
And this will be really quick. Or I might even say, hey, sorry to interrupt. I just want to take a quick moment to hand you this cool sticker. So the time containers can be very helpful.
Yeah, I like that.
And you're also acknowledging, right? Like, I am taking up your time, but here I am, and I'm going to do it, but I acknowledge it. And then the third is your quick pitch. So I would say, hey, can I give you a cool sticker? Have you heard of Andrew Yang? Or have you seen this guy running for president?
Yeah.
And I might also say, have you seen this guy, Andrew Yang, who's running for president as a Democrat? And that would be my quick intro. And at that point, I listen for their reaction. So steps 1, 2, and 3 happen really quickly. Like, excuse me, let me interrupt for just a quick second. This will be quick. Can I give you a cool sticker? Have you heard of Andrew Yang?
Yeah.
Right. So that's about a 5-second speech.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I listen and tune into where they're at. They might say, yes, they've heard of it. No, they heard of him. No, they haven't. So typically you'll get like 3 kinds of reactions. Like a positive, like they've already heard of Yang, or they like the sticker, and they're like happy and positive to hear from you. And at that point, then I would say, do you know what his math hat stands for? That's a good in. Or if they already are Yang Gang, they're like, hey, Yang Gang. And they're like, hey, follow up with something else. Like, would you like to join the UCSD Yang Gang? And to spice it up, I use this a lot here. We have a little competition going on with SDSU Yang Gang to see who can grow the fastest. That way it kind of like gets them to want to join. If they have a neutral reaction, which is, they're not pissed off at you that you interrupted, but they're also like not happy and enthusiastic.
Right.
I would go on, make it a little bit more spicy of a pitch. I would say something like, so he's a technologist and a humanist. And then I would ask for another 20 seconds of their time. I would say, he's a technologist and a humanist, and he's running to beat Donald Trump. Can I give you a quick 20-second introduction to who he is?
Interesting.
And so I like doing this, like asking them for more of their time.
Yeah. I like to ask people, are you planning to vote as an
Okay.
introduction?
Yeah.
Because most people will say yes. But you could go either way.
What if they no? What if they say no?
I don't think I've ever had anyone
Okay.
say no. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this part, like, definitely you'll have your own flow, and you don't need to follow the script if something comes to you.
Yeah.
Right? But I just wrote this out so that you have something.
Yeah.
For someone who is kind of skeptical, again, I would say, can I give you a quick 20-second introduction to why I'm volunteering for this guy? So, and I put that in there to make sure they know that I'm a volunteer. I'm not
Okay.
like a paid canvasser or anything
Yeah.
like that.
That's good.
Let's see, and if I get a negative response, meaning they're pissed off that I interrupted them or annoyed, I would simply say, I'm sorry for the interruption. I'll let you do your thing, and just move on.
Yeah.
Or something like, okay, I'll get out of your hair. I'll let you do your thing, and have a good day. Like, stay positive.
Yeah.
And regarding negative responses and rejections, it's important to know that most of the times people are rejecting not because of anything you're doing, but because of something that they want to do. So never take it personally, right? A lot of rejections I get are most of them are auto rejections, just because people sometimes don't like to be interrupted. They might think you're trying to sell them something, so they auto refuse. And where there's an opportunity, I make sure that there's no misunderstanding. Like, if they think I'm trying to sell them something, I would just say, I'm not trying to sell you anything, I'm actually just a volunteer.
Yeah.
But if they really say no, again, just be like, I'm sorry, thank you for your time, and just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Have you had any worse negative reactions or just like pretty chill?
I did have one very odd reaction. The guy did not like Yang at all because I think he saw the debates and he just like heard something he said once or twice that didn't like him. And he's like, yeah, I saw him on the debates. He says the stupidest things. And so, you know, but that was like one conversation out of like 5,000 that I've had. So it's very rare. Yeah, and I think even then, if I had enough time with him, I'd probably be able to make a connection. But I just said, okay, I respect your opinion and have a good day.
Yeah.
So.
When I went to Irvine, they were tabling at the Spectrum, and I think the Irvine crowd is not as relaxed as San Diego. So we didn't have as many people come by the table, and we also kind of had to stay in one little area. We had one person say that UBI was a terrible idea. He wasn't very rude, just more of like, strong, opinion.
So how I would deal with that is, whatever the person says, empathize. And the first thing would be like, oh yeah, why would you think so? Right? And be curious, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think it's a bad idea?
Yeah. We also had a person in Escondido when we were tabling who said that it's socialism, and then we tried to say like, okay, socialism is when the government controls the means of production, but they weren't having it at all.
Well, the first thing I would say to that is your first response could be, oh, I could see why you see it that way, right? So, like, try to agree wherever you can. Yeah, and you might have to dig deep.
If you say like I can see, I guess like I can see where you're coming from or something, or
oh, here's one that's general. A general good response. Oh, interesting. Right?
Yeah.
So you're not making them wrong, and you're not agreeing with them either, but you're saying interesting. Would you like to say more? Like, why do you think that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I think you can tell if the person is actually, open-minded or wants to have a conversation, or if they're just trying to be more combative, though.
Yeah, definitely if they're being combative, you think it's a waste of your time, just thank them and, respect their opinion and move on.
Yeah. But it is rare, but it does happen, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And this is a guilty pleasure of mine is that I love engaging people who give me a hard time. And I'm actually working on not doing that because it's not the best use of time. Because in the 5 minutes I spent trying to convince a hard case, I could have yanked 20 people. So that's my mentality now. But I still, every now and then, I like seeking out the hard conversations just because it's more challenging. And if you should choose to engage those types of people, my advice is to always find where they're right. Always find places where you can agree with them, or at least affirm what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because even people with very strong opinions that you might disagree with, they disagree with you because they feel like that's the right thing to believe. So, try to at least empathize with that. And my mentality going into those types of situations is I'm not actually trying to fight them or argue with them. I'm going to listen to them, understand why they believe the way they believe, and then I will offer another perspective that they may not have been aware of. So I would tell people, hey, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but I do want to offer a different perspective that perhaps you're not seeing. And if I describe that perspective, they still don't agree with it, then I'd be like, okay, that's, I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's see. From this point, we could do a little role play, or do you think? How do you feel about?
I think I feel comfortable because I've talked to a lot of people like in different formats about Yang. But the role play I think is good for people who've never,
Right.
never.
Yeah,
had
so
the
if those of you are watching at home, you could buddy up with somebody and just pretend like one of you is a student or just, out at a mall eating lunch, and then, run through your little hello, can I interrupt for a quick second? Here's my sticker, and, switch off and give each other feedback. Yeah, and we'll be doing that with real people in a moment.